The transport ship Dawn of Bizin drifted through the darkness of space, carrying 50,000 human souls toward their new home. Captain Haiyan Wu sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the stars slide past the view screen. His sister Mai worked in the medical bay below, preparing supplies for their arrival at New Jeju. The colonists were excited. They had left Earth behind to build something new, something better. Children ran through the corridors, while their parents packed belongings and dreamed of fresh starts. Haiyan Wu checked his navigation charts for the 100th time. Everything was correct. The Galactic Council had approved their route through this sector of space. The paperwork sat in his files, signed and verified by 3 different alien bureaucrats. This was neutral territory. Safe passage was guaranteed by galactic law. The alarm screamed through the ship without warning. Haiyan Wu's hands flew across his console as massive ships appeared on his sensors. Valkyrie warships, 12 of them, arranged in an attack formation. His blood went cold. The Valkyrie were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Warriors who had conquered 40 star systems over the centuries. Unidentified human vessel. You are in violation of Valkyrie space. A voice crackled over the communications channel. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Haiyan Wu keyed his transmitter with shaking hands. This is Captain Haiyan Wu of the Dawn of Bizin. We are in neutral space under Galactic Council authority. Our route was approved. We have the documentation. Your documentation is irrelevant. This territory is disputed. You will surrender immediately. We have 50,000 civilians aboard, including children. We are unarmed. Please, let us pass through. We mean no threat to anyone. The Valkyrie Admiral appeared on screen. Admiral Vexul was massive, with 4 arms and eyes that burned with something cruel. I am aware of your passenger count. Submit to inspection or face destruction. Heng Wu transmitted the council documents. His hands would not stop shaking. Murray's voice came through his private channel. Brother, what's happening? The passengers are frightened. Stay calm, he whispered. Keep everyone calm. It will be okay. But it was not okay. Admiral Vexul reviewed the documents for exactly 10 seconds before deleting them from his screen. Documents forged. Your vessel is now property of the Valkyrie Dominion. They're not forged. Contact the Council. Verify them. The first blast hit the Dawn of Bizin like a hammer. The engines went offline instantly. Emergency lights flickered on throughout the ship. Screams echoed from the passenger decks. Haiyan Wu fought to regain control, but nothing responded. His ship was dead in space. Life support systems offline, his navigator reported, voice breaking. Hull integrity holding, but we have no power. Haiyan Wu opened the ship-wide channel. He tried to keep his voice steady. This is the captain. Everyone needs to move to the central sections of the ship. Share warmth. Conserve oxygen. Help is coming. Earth knows our position. Help is coming. But help was 3 weeks away at maximum speed. The Dawn of Bizin had life support for maybe 4 days without power. Admiral Vexul's face filled every screen on the ship. Humans of the Dawn of Bizin, you will serve as an example. Your species is weak. Your council protection is worthless. For the next several days, my empire will watch you die. Consider it entertainment. Haiyan Wu lunged at his console, trying desperately to restore power, to send a distress signal, to do anything. But the Valkyrie had been precise. Every critical system was destroyed. The ship was now just a metal tomb drifting through space. The temperature began to drop. Slowly at first, then faster. Passengers huddled together in the central assembly halls. Mai and her medical team distributed blankets and organized people into groups. The children cried. Their parents held them and lied about rescue coming soon. On the first day, everyone remained hopeful. They sang songs to keep spirits up. They told stories. They believed that the galaxy would not allow this to happen. The Galactic Council would intervene. Someone would help. On the second day, the cold became unbearable. People could see their breath in the air. The oxygen levels began to drop noticeably. Myray used the last of the medical bay's power to keep the children as comfortable as possible. She held their hands and told them they were brave. She cried when they could not see her. Hyan Wu stayed on the bridge, still trying to repair anything. His fingers were numb. His lungs burned with each breath. He recorded everything. Every moment. Every scream. Every plea. He set the ship's backup transmitter to broadcast on a loop toward Earth. His final message had to get through. On the third day, the dying began. The elderly went first, their bodies unable to handle the cold and thin air. Children followed, their small lungs struggling. Myray worked until her hands could no longer move, trying to comfort the dying, trying to ease their pain. She held a little girl named Hana as the child took her last breath, whispering about wanting to see the new world. Hyan Wu watched through the security cameras as his ship became a morgue. The Velkari broadcast it all. They narrated the deaths like sportscasters. They made jokes. Their citizens tuned in across their empire, watching humans freeze and suffocate for fun. Marie's voice came through one last time. "Brother, I'm in the medical bay. It's so cold. I wanted you to know that I'm not afraid. Tell Mom I love her. Tell Earth what happened here. Make them remember us. Promise me." "I promise," Hyan Wu whispered. "I promise." His sister died 17 minutes later. By the fourth day, only Hyan Wu remained alive on the bridge, kept conscious by pure rage. His final transmission was raw and broken. "This is Captain Hyan Wu. The Velkari murdered 50,000 civilians. They did it for entertainment. The galaxy needs to know. Earth needs to know. Someone has to answer for this. Someone has to pay. Tell my mother I'm sorry. Tell her we tried. Tell her to make them remember. Make them all remember." The transmission cut out as Hing Wu's frozen body slumped over his console. The Velkari fleet departed, leaving the dawn of Bizan drifting in space like a monument to their power. Admiral Vexul filed a routine report claiming the destruction of an authorized vessel in disputed space. The Galactic Council received the report and took no action. But Hyan Wu's transmission reached Earth. Every second of footage. Every scream. Every death. President Daesung watched it in the Emergency Command Center, flanked by his advisors Tae Hyan and Young Mi. They watched children die. They watched Myray hold that little girl. They watched Hyan Wu's final words. When it ended, the room sat in absolute silence. President Daesung stood slowly. His voice was ice. "Get me Ambassador G1. Get me the generals. Get me everyone. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you murder 50,000 humans and call it entertainment." Young Mi looked at her president. "What are you planning?" "Justice," Daesung said. "By law if they'll allow it. By force if they won't." The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They had killed 50,000 humans expecting no consequences. They were about to discover they had made the worst mistake in galactic history. Ambassador G1 stood before the Galactic Council with evidence that should have ended the debate immediately. She showed them the navigation charts. She played the recordings. She presented testimony from 3 different council clerks who had approved the dawn of Bizan's route. The chamber filled with the sounds of children screaming as they froze to death. Murray's voice echoed through the grand hall as she begged for help that never came. Chairman Velmuth watched it all with barely concealed boredom. The ancient being had overseen the council for 3 centuries. He had seen thousands of species come and go. Humans were newcomers, barely worth his attention. "The evidence is clear," G1 said, her voice steady despite the fury burning inside her. Admiral Vexul and the Velkari Dominion committed mass murder. They killed 50,000 civilians in neutral space. They broadcast it for entertainment. We demand justice. The council deliberated for 6 hours. G1 waited, believing in the system. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council 20 years ago with hope. They had followed every rule. They had contributed to every initiative. They had tried to be good galactic citizens. Chairman Velmoth delivered the verdict personally. The Council finds that while the incident was regrettable, the territory in question has disputed status. The Velkari claim to that sector predates human arrival in the galaxy. Therefore, their actions, while harsh, do not constitute a criminal violation of Council law. The Velkari Dominion is fined 500,000 credits for improper documentation procedures. G1 stared at him in disbelief. 500,000 credits? That's less than the cost of a shuttle. They murdered 50,000 people. The matter is closed, Ambassador. I suggest Earth accept this reality and move forward. Your species is young. You must learn your place in the galactic order. G1 returned to Earth with the news. President Daesung received her in his office, along with his senior advisors. Taehyun handled military affairs. Young Mi managed diplomatic relations. Both looked exhausted from weeks of trying to find justice through proper channels. They're not going to help us, G1 said quietly. The Council sees us as insignificant. 50,000 human lives mean nothing to them. Daesung stood at the window, looking out at Earth below. Then we help ourselves. Young Mi recall all our people from alien worlds. Every ambassador, every student, every researcher. Bring them home. Taehyun, activate Project Retribution. Sir, if we do that, there's no going back. Taehyun warned. There was no going back the moment they killed our people, and laughed about it. Daesung turned to face them. They think we're weak because we're young. They're about to learn that young doesn't mean helpless. News of Earth's withdrawal from the Council spread quickly. Alien media networks mocked the decision. Velkari War Marshal Krix appeared on broadcasts across the galaxy, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of contempt. The humans threaten us? We could erase their pathetic world in an afternoon. Let them posture. Prey always makes noise before it dies. His words were broadcast to every human settlement. Millions watched the being who helped plan the dawn of Bizan massacre laugh at their pain. The rage that followed was cold and calculated. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, humanity had been preparing for 20 years. Chief Engineer Sang-woo walked President Daesung through the hidden facility. Massive construction bays stretched for kilometers underground. Inside them sat warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. We've been studying their technology since first contact, Sang-woo explained. Every treaty we signed gave us access to more information. Every joint project taught us their weaknesses. They never worried about us learning because they never imagined we'd use it. The ships were beautiful and terrible. The Sol-class dreadnoughts combined human engineering with adapted alien technology. Fusion drives that could outrun anything in the galaxy. Armor that could withstand directed energy weapons. Railguns that accelerated tungsten slugs to speeds that would punch through alien. Shields like paper. General Biora commanded Earth's military forces. She had spent 15 years preparing for a war everyone said would never happen. Now she stood on the bridge of the flagship Righteous Fury, reviewing tactical data with her senior staff. The Velkari haven't fought a real war in 4,000 years, she told her officers. They've only had to intimidate smaller species. They're bullies, not warriors. We're going to teach them the difference. Captain Jae-sung commanded the Righteous Fury. He was young for such a position, only 35, but he had studied military history his entire life. The aliens have better individual technology, but we have better tactics. They've forgotten how to actually fight. Millions of humans volunteered for military service. The recruitment centers were overwhelmed. Everyone wanted to serve. Everyone wanted justice for the 50,000. Kyung-hee had been a civilian drone operator before the massacre. Her daughter Mina died on the dawn of Bizan, only 7 years old. Now Kyung-hee sat in a military simulation pod, learning to operate combat drones. She trained 18 hours a day. Every target she destroyed wore her daughter's name. Marine Corporal Hwan lost both parents on the transport. He was 22 and had been planning to join them at the colony. Instead, he joined the military. His unit trained for boarding actions, learning to fight in zero gravity, in hostile environments, against species stronger and faster than humans. They trained until their bodies broke, then trained more. Pilot Soo Bin's brother died holding a little girl, trying to keep her warm in those final hours. The recording showed him singing to her until his voice failed. Now Soo Bin flew fighter simulations, learning every trick, every maneuver. Her instructors said she was reckless. She said she was motivated. Each volunteer tattooed the names of their lost loved ones on their armor. Some had one name. Some had dozens. They would carry their dead into battle. 3 months after the Council's verdict, Earth sent one final message to the Valkyrie Dominion. President Daesung delivered it personally, broadcast on every channel the galaxy could receive. Admiral Vexul and the Valkyrie government, you murdered 50,000 civilians. You did this knowingly, deliberately, and for entertainment. We offered you the chance for justice through law. The Galactic Council refused to provide it. Therefore, we will take justice ourselves. You have 72 hours to return the bodies of our people for proper burial and to surrender those responsible for trial. This is your only warning. This is your only chance. The galaxy watched with amusement. Humans threatening the Valkyrie? It was absurd. The Valkyrie Dominion controlled 40 star systems and commanded fleets that had conquered civilizations older than human history. Admiral Vexul responded by destroying an automated Earth research station in the Kepler system. 3 scientists died in the explosion. He broadcast his response with the bodies still floating in space behind him. Humans, come and collect your corpses yourself, if you dare. The Valkyrie Dominion does not negotiate with prey. We do not bow to threats from insects. Your world exists because we allow it. Remember your place. In the Luna facility, General Biora watched the broadcast. Around her, her officers waited for orders. The 72-hour deadline had been refused with more murder. All ships, she commanded. Prepare for immediate departure. Target, Valkyrie Prime. Rules of engagement. Anyone who participated in the Dawn of Bizan massacre is a legitimate target. Anyone who surrenders will be taken for trial. Anyone who fights will be destroyed. Captain Jae-sung took his position on the bridge of the Righteous Fury. Around him, 11 other dreadnoughts powered up their drives. 40 cruisers took formation. 200 support vessels prepared for the longest voyage in human military history. In her fighter, pilot Soo Bin checked her weapons one final time. On the side of her cockpit, she had written her brother's name in permanent marker. Below it, the little girl's name. She would make sure they were remembered. Kyung-hee synchronized her drone swarm, 12 combat units responding to her mental commands. Each drone carried her daughter's picture in its memory core. Marine Hwan and his unit boarded their assault transport. They would be the ones to physically capture the Volcari commanders. They would look them in the eyes. Earth's fleet launched from Luna in the largest military deployment in human history. 12 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, 200 support craft, 20,000 personnel. Every one of them carried names of the dead. The galaxy watched them go, still laughing. They would arrive at Valkyrie Prime in 3 weeks. The Valkyrie had 3 weeks to prepare their defenses, 3 weeks to gather allies, 3 weeks to ready their military dot. They had no idea it would not be enough. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as young and weak. They were about to learn that humans had been practicing warfare on each other for 10,000 years. They had perfected it. And now, for the first time, humanity would show the galaxy what real war looked like. The countdown had begun. Earth's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Valkyrie space. 12 massive dreadnoughts hung in the darkness like steel angels of death. 40 cruisers formed attack wings around them. 200 support vessels, spread out in precise formations that human admirals had been perfecting for centuries. General B.O. stood on the bridge of the Righteous Fury, watching as sensors mapped the enemy positions. The Valkyrie had assembled 60 warships to defend their home system. They outnumbered Earth's fleet 3-1. In any normal calculation, the humans should retreat, but nothing about this was normal. Admiral Vexul commanded the Valkyrie defense fleet from his flagship Eternal Dominance. He had spent 3 weeks preparing, gathering ships from across the Dominion. He had studied the limited data available on human vessels. He was confident. Humans were newcomers to space combat. The Valkyrie had been warriors for 10,000 years. "Open a channel," he commanded. His bridge crew obeyed instantly, as they had been trained to do for centuries. Vexul's image appeared on every human ship. "Foolish mammals, you come to your deaths. Your ships are crude. Your tactics are primitive. Surrender now and I will make your ends quick. Resist and you will suffer as your colonists suffered." General B.O. Ra replied without emotion. "Admiral Vexul, you are charged with the murder of 50,000 civilians. Surrender yourself and your officers for trial. Power down your weapons. This is your final opportunity for mercy." Vexul laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "I will enjoy mounting your skull in my trophy room, human." "All ships," Baora said calmly. "You are weapons-free. Show them what we learned while they grew fat on peace." The Battle of Valkyrie Prime began with a human missile barrage that turned space into fire. 2,000 missiles launched simultaneously from the human fleet, each one programmed with evasive patterns designed by computers that had studied millions of theoretical combat scenarios. The Valkyrie point defense systems opened fire, expecting to easily destroy the incoming weapons. They had the best defensive technology in the galaxy, proven over millennia. But the missiles did not fly in straight lines. They jinked and weaved. They used each other as shields. They split into submunitions at random intervals. 30% of the missiles got through. Valkyrie shields flickered and died under the assault. 3 destroyers exploded immediately. 2 more lost power and began drifting. Admiral Vexul stared at his tactical display in confusion. That should not have been possible. His fleet was superior. His technology was superior. How had so many missiles penetrated his defenses? The answer was simple. The Valkyrie had not fought a real war in 4,000 years. Humans had never stopped fighting. They just fought each other. Instead, Captain Jason commanded the Righteous Fury into the heart of the enemy formation. His ship moved in ways that made no sense to the Valkyrie. It rolled. It pitched. It used its thrusters to slide sideways while still firing forward. The maneuvers were inefficient by galactic standards. They wasted fuel and energy dot but they also made targeting solutions impossible. Velkari weapons, designed for battles between ships that moved in predictable patterns, could not track the human dreadnought. The righteous furious railguns fired tungsten slugs at relativistic speeds. Each impact hit like a small nuclear weapon. A Velkari cruiser exploded as a tungsten round punched completely through its hull, destroying the reactor core. Another lost its weapons batteries as human fire raked its surface. The Velkari ships were more advanced, but they had been built for intimidation, not warfare. Pilot Subin led her fighter wing into the gaps created by the dreadnoughts. Her small craft, barely 20 meters long, darted between the massive capital ships like wasps attacking elephants. The Velkari had fighters too, but their pilots had trained for parade formations and intimidation displays. Subin had trained against computer opponents programmed with data from every human fighter ace in history. She flew like she was possessed, her brother's name written on her cockpit giving her strength. Her wing took down 6 Velkari fighters in the first 90 seconds of combat. The Velkari pilots panicked. They had never faced an enemy that was trying to kill them. Their training had focused on precision flying and ceremony. Human pilots had trained for survival. Below the main battle, Kyung-hee controlled her drone swarm from the assault carrier Inchin's Revenge. Her 12 drones moved as one mind, her neural interface translating her thoughts into action. They targeted the Velkari communications arrays, cutting the enemy fleet's coordination. She thought of her daughter Minna with every target she destroyed. 7 years old, dead in the cold and dark. Kyung-hee's drones were merciless, precise, driven by a mother's grief, turned into cold fury. Within 2 hours, the tactical situation had reversed. The Velkari fleet, which had started with a numerical advantage, was now broken. 20 ships destroyed, 15 more badly damaged. The rest scattered and disorganized. Admiral Vexul watched his fleet die and could not understand how it was happening. His technology was superior. His ships were larger. His species had ruled this sector for millennia. How were these young upstarts winning? The answer appeared on his screen as the righteous fury targeted his flagship. Captain Jae-sung's face filled the display, young and hard. "You learned to fight weak enemies who could not fight back," Jae-sung said. "We learned to fight ourselves. We have been at war for our entire history. You have been at peace. That is why you are losing." The righteous fury as main railgun fired. The tungsten slug crossed the distance in seconds. It hit the Eternal Dominance directly in the command section. Admiral Vexul died instantly, along with 300 of his senior officers. The flagship broke apart, its reactor going critical. The remaining Velkari ships attempted to retreat. Half of them made it to faster-than-light speed. The others were destroyed or disabled by human pursuit craft. The Battle of Velkari Prime was over. The greatest military force in the sector had been destroyed in under 3 hours. Velkari casualties, 25,000 dead. Human casualties, 340. The galaxy had been watching. News networks across 1,000 worlds broadcast the battle live. Species that had feared the Velkari for centuries watched them die. The impossible had happened. The young species had defeated the ancient. Empire. General Bo-Ra opened a channel to Velkari. Prime, the planet's government bunkers, received her transmission with clarity that made them tremble. "This is General Bo-Ra of Earth. Your fleet is destroyed. Your orbital defenses are disabled. You have murdered 50,000 of our people. We have come for justice. You have 6 hours to surrender everyone responsible for the Dawn of Bizan massacre. If you refuse, we will take them by force. Choose wisely." The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Chairman Velmuth watched the battle footage with growing horror. This could not be happening. The order of the galaxy was built on the strong ruling the weak. Earth was supposed to be weak. They were newcomers. They should have been crushed. He sent a message to Earth, his ancient voice urgent for the first time in decades. Humanity, you have proven your point. The Council will reconsider its verdict. Withdraw your fleet now, and we will negotiate new terms. President Day soon received the message in his command center on Earth. Pei Haiyan and young Mi stood beside him, waiting for his decision. Around the world, billions of humans watched and waited. Day Sung's response was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Chairman Velmoth, you had your chance for justice. You chose to protect murderers. This is no longer a negotiation. This is enforcement. We will have justice for our 50,000 dead. The galaxy will learn that human life has value, or the galaxy will learn to fear us. The choice is yours. For 72 hours, Earth's fleet maintained a blockade of Valkyrie Prime. No ships entered. No ships left. Medical vessels from the Valkyrie's allies were turned away. Trade convoys were redirected. The Valkyrie government sat in their bunkers and debated. Engineer Sangu's cyber warfare. Teams infiltrated every major system on the planet. They could have crashed the economy. They could have shut down life support in the major cities. They did not. Earth wanted justice, not genocide. But the Valkyrie needed to know they were beaten. On the third day, the Valkyrie government surrendered. 247 officers and government officials were handed over to human custody. Among them was War Marshal Crix, who had ordered the deaths of the 50,000 to be broadcast as entertainment. Marine Corporal Juan was part of the unit that took them into custody. He looked War Marshal Crix in the eyes as they placed restraints on his forearms. The Valkyrie commander seemed confused, as if he still did not understand why this was happening. You killed my parents, Juan said quietly. You killed them for fun. Now you will answer for it. The prisoners were loaded onto transport ships. The human fleet prepared to return home. Behind them, Valkyrie Prime sat defeated, its proud empire shattered in 3 hours of combat. As the fleet entered faster than light travel, General Ba Ra addressed her ships. Today we showed the galaxy that justice delayed is not justice denied. We showed them that human life has value. We showed them that we will fight for our own. Every one of you performed with honor. The 50,000 can rest easier knowing their deaths were not ignored. In her fighter, pilot Subin looked at her brother's name one more time. She had kept her promise. She had made them pay. Hyung-hee powered down her drones, exhausted. Her daughter was still gone. But at least Minna's killers would face judgment. Earth's fleet returned home as heroes. But the trial was still to come. The trial station hung in orbit above Earth, a massive structure built specifically for this purpose. 247 Valkyrie prisoners sat in secure cells, waiting to face justice for what they had done. The galaxy watched with a mixture of fascination and horror. This was unprecedented. The weak were putting the strong on trial. Ambassador G1 stood in the prosecutor's chamber, reviewing her evidence one final time. She had spent months preparing for this moment. Every document was checked. Every witness was ready. Every piece of footage was verified. The trial would be broadcast across every civilized world. It had to be perfect. Judge Sang-mi presided over the proceedings. She was 70 years old, a veteran of Earth's highest courts. She had been a judge for 40 years and had never lost her faith in the law. Now she would apply that law to beings who thought themselves above it. The courtroom was designed to accommodate multiple species. Valkyrie defendants sat in specialized restraint chairs, their forearms secured. Their attorneys, hired from a dozen different worlds, sat at the defense table. Many alien species had sent lawyers. curious to see how this would unfold. The trial began on a Monday morning, Earth time. The courtroom was packed with observers from 80 different species. Reporters from hundreds of news networks broadcast every moment. This was the most watched legal proceeding in galactic history. Ambassador G1 rose to give her opening statement. She wore a simple black suit with a small pin over her heart, the symbol of the dawn of Bizan. Her voice was calm and clear. 50,000 people went to sleep on a transport ship, dreaming of a new world. They were farmers and teachers. They were engineers and artists. They were children who had not yet learned to read. They never woke up. They died in the cold and dark, slowly suffocating, while their killers watched and laughed. This trial is not about politics. It is not about territory. It is about the most basic principle of civilization. You cannot murder innocents without consequence. She activated the central display. The courtroom filled with the image of the dawn of Bizan, as it had looked before the attack. A peaceful vessel, its hull painted with Earth's colors. Children's drawings were visible through some of the windows. I will prove that these defendants knowingly, deliberately, and maliciously murdered 50,000 civilians. I will prove they did so in clear violation of galactic law, in neutral space, against an unarmed vessel. I will prove they broadcast these murders as entertainment. And I will prove they felt no remorse, then or now. The first week of trial was devoted to establishing the facts. G1 called navigation experts who confirmed the dawn of Bizan was in neutral space. She presented the council-approved route documentation. She showed communications, proving the Valkyrie knew the ship was civilian and unarmed. The defense argued that the territory was disputed. Their lead attorney, a Telvox named Kermo, was famous across the galaxy. He spoke with confidence. While the deaths were tragic, my clients acted within their authority as they understood it. Cultural differences in military protocol led to this unfortunate incident. The Valkyrie Dominion has different standards for territorial defense. Judge Sang-Ni stopped him mid-sentence. Counselor, are you arguing that culture justifies the deliberate murder of children? Choose your next words carefully. The courtroom went silent. Alien observers whisper among themselves. Human judges did not defer to powerful species. This was already different from council proceedings. The second week brought the footage. G1 had warned everyone what was coming. Counselors were available for those who needed to leave. But everyone stayed. The galaxy needed to see this. The screens filled with the interior of the dawn of Bizan. Day 1. Passengers gathered in the assembly halls, confused but hopeful. Captain Hyan Wu's voice over the speakers, telling them help was coming. Children playing games to pass the time. Day 2. The temperature dropping. People huddling together. The first signs of panic as oxygen levels fell. Parents lying to their children, promising everything would be okay. Myray working herself to exhaustion, trying to keep people comfortable. Day 3. The dying began. An elderly man named Sungho closed his eyes and did not open them again. A little girl named Hana cried for her mother. Myray held her hand as the child stopped breathing, stopped moving, stopped being. The courtroom was silent except for the Kai, sounds from the footage, crying, praying, parents singing lullabies to children who would never grow up. Hyan Wu's voice breaking as he recorded his final message. G1 let the footage play for 6 hours. She showed them everything, every death, every moment of suffering. By the end, several alien observers were openly weeping. Even some of the defense attorneys looked shaken. These are the people the defendants murdered, Ji Wu said softly. Look at them. Remember their faces. They were real. They mattered. The third week brought the Valkyrie's own broadcasts. G1 presented communications showing Admiral Vexul had ordered the footage to be streamed across the Dominion. Commentary tracks where Velkari citizens made jokes about the dying humans. Ratings data showing millions had tuned in. War Marshal Crix's testimony sealed his fate. He took the stand with arrogance, even in chains. Humans are weak. They needed to learn their place in the galactic order. The Dominion is strong. We do what we wish. This trial is meaningless. Judge Sang-mi leaned forward. You watched children die and called it entertainment. They were not our children. They were not even our species. Why should we care? The courtroom erupted. Judge Sang-mi called for order. When silence returned, she spoke with ice in her voice. You have answered the only question that matters. You are not fit to exist in civilized society. You are not even fit to exist. The defense tried everything. They argued cultural relativism. They claimed the Velkari could not have known the ship would lose life support so quickly. They suggested the humans were trespassing and brought their fate upon themselves. G1 destroyed each argument methodically. The defendants are experienced military officers. They knew exactly what would happen when they disabled that ship. They chose to do it anyway. They chose to broadcast it. They chose to ignore 3 days of desperate pleas for mercy. These were not accidents. These were not misunderstandings. These were deliberate murders. The testimony took 18 days. Survivors from Earth who had lost family gave impact statements. Kyung-hee spoke about her daughter, Min-ha, showing pictures of a smiling 7-year-old who loved drawing pictures of stars. She wanted to be an astronaut. She wanted to explore the galaxy. Your clients took that future from her. They took everything. Marine Corporal Juan testified about his parents. They were good people. They just wanted to farm on a new world. They did not deserve to freeze to death in the dark. Pilot Su Bin showed the court her brother's final message, recorded on his personal device. He sang to a dying child, his voice cracking, trying to comfort her in their final moments. He was 25 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. Your clients stole it for entertainment. The jury was composed of 12 humans, selected for their ability to be fair. They had not lost family in the massacre. They listened to everything. They took notes. They did not speak until deliberations. After 18 days of testimony, the jury received the case. They deliberated for 36 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty. All 247 defendants. Guilty of crimes against sapient life. Guilty of mass murder. Guilty of violating the most basic laws of civilization. The sentencing took another week. Judge Sang-mi heard arguments about appropriate punishment. The prosecution asked for death. The defense begged for mercy. War Marshal Crix received the harshest sentence. He would be executed by the same method he had used on the 50,000. Placed in a disabled ship, left to slowly suffocate and freeze. He would experience what they experienced. He would die as they died. The other defendants received sentences ranging from life imprisonment to eventual execution. Each sentence was carefully calculated based on their level of involvement and responsibility. The galaxy reacted with shock. 26 civilizations issued formal condemnations of Earth. The Tarvex Federation threatened sanctions. The Ulith Collective broke diplomatic relations. Chairman Velmuth declared humanity barbaric and uncivilized. President Daesung addressed these criticisms from the steps of the trial station. You call us barbaric for executing 247 murderers. Yet you said nothing when 50,000 innocents died. You call yourselves civilized while defending those who broadcast the deaths of children as entertainment. We have learned what your civilization means. We reject it. But not all species condemned Earth. 42 younger civilizations reached out in secret. Species that had been bullied by the Volcari and others like them. Species that had lost people to the arrogance of the strong. The Corvin sent Ambassador Liva to meet with President Daesung. Your actions have inspired us. You showed that the strong can be held accountable. You showed that justice is possible. We wish to stand with you. Over 30 days, the sentences were carried out. War Marshal Crix was placed in a disabled shuttle and released into space. His execution was broadcast, just as the dawn of Bizan deaths had been. The galaxy watched him experience the same terror, the same cold, the same slow death. Many found it disturbing. Earth did not care. This is justice, Ambassador G1 said during the broadcast. This is what happens when you murder innocents. The galaxy will remember this. They will remember that humanity values its people. They will remember that we keep our promises. The executions ended on a Wednesday. The trial station remained in orbit, a permanent monument to what had happened. The names of the 50,000 were engraved on its exterior, visible from Earth below. Their memory would endure, but the galaxy was changing. Old alliances were fracturing. New ones were forming. Earth had shown that the established order could be challenged. Now others wanted to do the same. The consequences were just beginning. 6 months after the trial ended, the galaxy had split into 2 camps. The old powers gathered under Chairman Velmoth's leadership. 26 civilizations formed the Coalition for Galactic Stability, demanding Earth submit to their authority. They insisted humanity had violated the natural order. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. That was how the galaxy worked. President Daesung received their ultimatum in his office on Earth. Tae-Hyun and young Mi stood beside him as he read the demands. Earth must dismantle its military. Earth must submit to oversight. Earth must pay reparations to the Valkyrie Dominion for the damage inflicted. Earth must apologize. They still do not understand, Daesung said quietly. They think this was about power. It was about justice. But 42 species saw it differently. The Corvin had been the first to reach out. Ambassador Liva brought her people's gratitude. The Valkyrie occupied our worlds for 300 years. They took what they wanted. They killed who they wished. You showed us they could be stopped. The Mirith followed. And the Kelm, then dozens of others. Species that had been pushed around by the old powers. Species told to accept their place. Species that lost people and were told it did not matter. They formed the Free Worlds Alliance with Earth at its center. These younger species wanted what Earth had shown was possible: the right to defend themselves, the right to justice, the right to say no to the strong. General B.O. Ra stood in the expanded Luna facility, watching construction crews build new ships. The Free Worlds Alliance pooled their resources. The Corvin provided rare materials. The Mirith shared their advanced sensors. The Kelm contributed skilled engineers. Together, they built a fleet, not just human ships anymore. Mixed crews. Mixed technology. But human tactics. Human training. The Free Worlds Alliance learned what Earth knew. Warfare was not about having the best technology. It was about having the will to use what you had. The Coalition watched this with growing alarm. Chairman Velmoth convened emergency sessions. This cannot stand. If the weak species unite, they will threaten the entire galactic order. We must act now, while we still can. Fleet Commander Zeph received his orders with satisfaction. He was Telvox, a species that had dominated their region for 2,000 years. He had commanded fleets that pacified rebellions and enforced council law. This would be no different. 400 warships from 12 species gathered under his command. Dreadnoughts from the Telvox. Carriers from the Vex. Destroyers from the Narn. The largest military force assembled in modern galactic history. They set course for Earth, The message arrived 3 days before the fleet did. Fleet Commander Zeth appeared on every screen across Earth and the Free Worlds Alliance. Humanity, you have upset the balance of galactic civilization. You have encouraged rebellion among species that should know their place. You have exactly 72 hours to surrender your military, submit to coalition authority, and face punishment for your crimes. Refuse, and your world will be destroyed. This is not negotiation. This is fact. President Dae-Soon called an emergency meeting with the Free Worlds Alliance leadership. Ambassador Liva attended via hologram from the Corvin homeworld. So did representatives from the Mirith, the Kelm, and 39 other species. They come for us now, Dae-Soon said. But if we fall, they will come for you next. The old powers will never allow us to be free. We must stand together, or we will die separately. Ambassador Leva spoke first. The Corvin stand with Earth. We will not go back to being slaves. One by one, the other species pledged their support. Some had only a few ships. Some had technology that seemed primitive. But all of them had something the Coalition had forgotten, the will to fight for their freedom. General Bio-Ra assembled Earth's expanded fleet. 600 warships now bore human design or influence. Crews from 42 species worked together, trained together, ready to fight together. They gathered in Earth's solar system. A wall of steel and determination dot behind them came 300 more ships from the Free Worlds Alliance. The Corvin brought 40 vessels. The Mirith brought 60. The Kelm contributed 80. Species the Coalition dismissed as irrelevant now formed an armada. Captain Ji-Sung stood on the bridge of the Righteous Fury, now the flagship of the Free World's defense fleet. His crew was mixed now. Humans worked alongside Corvin and Mirith and Kelm. They had trained together for months. They trusted each other. Pilot Subin led a fighter squadron that included pilots from 7 different species. They flew human-designed fighters with integrated alien technology. Her wingmate was a Corvin named Velra, whose parents had died in a Velkari raid 20 years ago. They understood each other perfectly. Kyung-hee commanded a drone swarm that coordinated with Mirith sensor operators. Their combined systems could track targets across vast distances. Her daughter's name was still painted on every drone she controlled. She was not fighting alone anymore. Marine Corporal Huan trained Free World's troops in boarding tactics. Many of them had never fought before, but they learned quickly because they had something to fight for. Remember, he told them, we are not fighting for conquest. We are fighting for the right to exist without fear. The Coalition fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 400 warships in perfect formation. Fleet Commander Zeth opened communications with Earth, expecting immediate surrender. Instead, he saw General Bio-Ra's face, calm and determined. You come here to enforce the old order, she said. You come to put us back in our place. You will fail because you do not understand what you are facing. We are not fighting for power. We are fighting for justice. There is no force in the galaxy stronger than people defending their right to be free. Fleet Commander Zeth laughed. Noble words from dead species. Your fleet is impressive for primitives. But we outnumber you. Our technology is superior. Surrender now or be destroyed. Then come and try, Bao-Ra said simply. For 13 days, the two fleets faced each other across empty space. Neither side moved. The galaxy watched and waited. News networks provided constant coverage. Billions across thousands of worlds wondered if this would be the war that destroyed everything. In the Coalition command ship. Fleet Commander Zeth grew impatient. We cannot wait forever. The longer we delay, the more the weaker species will think resistance is possible. We attack tomorrow at dawn, Earth time. He sent the order down his chain of command. 400 ships prepared for battle. Weapons were charged. Shields were powered. Crews took their positions. The coalition would crush this rebellion and restore order. But at midnight, Fleet Commander Zeth received unexpected messages. 17 of his 26 species were refusing to fight. Ship after ship reported the same thing. Their crews would not fire on Earth. The Narn captain explained via encrypted channel, "We watched the trial. We saw the evidence. Earth fought for justice, not conquest. We will not be part of crushing them for doing what was right." The Vex Admiral was more direct. "Our species has been wondering if the Coalition still serves us or if we serve the Coalition. Today, we have our answer. We will not fight." By dawn, Fleet Commander Zeth commanded only 9 species and barely 200 ships. More than half his fleet had refused orders. The coalition was fracturing before the first shot was fired. Chairman Velmoth watched from council chambers in horror. This was not possible. Species did not refuse coalition orders. The strong commanded. The weak obeyed. That was the law of the galaxy for 10,000 years. But the galaxy was changing. The trial had shown something the old powers tried to hide. The strong only ruled because the weak allowed it. Once the weak said no, once they stood together, the balance shifted. Fleet Commander Zeth faced a choice. Attack with half his fleet and possibly lose, or retreat and admit defeat. He chose pride over wisdom. All ships attack formation. We will show these rebels what happens when they defy the natural order. The battle began at noon. 200 coalition ships against 900 free world's vessels. The numbers were no longer in Zeth's favor, but he believed in superior technology and training. He was wrong on both counts. The free world's fleet moved like a single organism. Human tactics, Corvin sensors, Mirith shields, Kelm weapons. They had spent 6 months learning to fight together. The coalition had spent those same months assuming they would never have to fight at all. Captain Ji Sung led the first attack wave. His mixed fleet used tactics the coalition had never seen. They coordinated across species barriers. They sacrificed ships to protect others. They fought like people who understood that losing meant extinction. Pilot Su Bin and her squadron tore through coalition fighter screens. The enemy pilots were skilled at ceremonies and displays. Su Bin's people were skilled at killing. There was a difference. Pyonghee's drone swarms worked with Mirith targeting systems to hit coalition weak points. They knew every ship design. They knew every vulnerability. They struck with precision that came from desperation, turned into training. The battle lasted 4 hours. At the end, the coalition fleet was shattered. 70 ships destroyed. 100 more damaged or disabled. Fleet Commander Ziyuth's flagship was boarded by Marine Corporal Huan's mixed species team. Zeth surrendered with confusion in his eyes, unable to understand how he had lost. Free World's casualties were lighter. 20 ships destroyed. 40 damaged. But those losses hurt because they were felt across 42 species, who had learned they were stronger together. The coalition's defeat echoed across the galaxy. Chairman Velmoth tried to rally support for a second attack, but no one would join him. The council itself began to fracture. Species withdrew. Ancient alliances dissolved. The order that had stood for 10,000 years was crumbling. 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council held a final vote. The old system was ended by unanimous decision of the remaining members. In its place, they formed the Confederacy of Free Stars. Equal representation for all species. Equal protection under law. Equal justice. President Daesung was offered leadership of the new Confederacy. He stood before the assembled delegates and declined. "We did not fight for power. We fought for justice. Let the Confederacy be led by those who will serve all species equally. Earth will be one voice among many, no more, no less. The Confederacy's first act was establishing a justice system based on Earth's trial. No species was above the law. No crime was ignored because the victim was weak. The 50,000 from the dawn of Bizon had died, but their deaths had changed the galaxy. On Earth, a monument was completed. 50,000 names engraved in stone, visible from space. Captain Hyun-woo and his sister Myrae were honored with statues. Their sacrifice was taught in schools across 42 worlds. Kyung-hee visited her daughter's name on the memorial, touching the engraved letters. Around her, ships from the Confederacy descended to Earth. Delegates came to discuss trade, defense, cooperation. Her daughter had died in darkness and cold, but her death had brought light to the galaxy. Ambassador G1 gave the dedication speech at the monument. Thousands attended in person. Millions watched across the Confederacy. The galaxy asked why humans fought so fiercely. The answer is simple. We remember what it means to be powerless. We remember what it means to cry out and be ignored. Never again will any species suffer that fate. The 50,000 died, but their memory will protect billions yet unborn. In the years that followed, the Confederacy grew stronger. Species that had lived in fear found safety in unity. The old powers that refused to change faded into history. New alliances formed based on justice rather than force. The Dawn of Bizan Memorial became a pilgrimage site. Species from across the Confederacy came to pay respects. They came to remember what happens when the strong forget mercy. They came to honor the 50,000 whose deaths changed everything. Pilot Subin, now a decorated commander, brought her children to see her brother's name on the memorial. He died trying to comfort a frightened child, she told them. He showed kindness in the darkest moment. That is what it means to be human. That is what it means to be civilized. Marine Juan, now training the next generation of Confederacy forces, taught his students about the battle for Earth. We did not win because we were strong. We won because we stood for something worth fighting for. Never forget that. President Dae-sung, in his final address before retirement, spoke to the entire Confederacy. 50,000 humans died because the galaxy valued power over justice. Today, billions live free because we refuse to accept that. The greatest honor we can give the dead is to build a universe where their deaths can never happen again. The galaxy had watched in horror as Earth demanded justice. They watched in shock as Earth took justice. They watched in disbelief as Earth won justice. And now they watched in understanding as Earth showed them that justice was possible for everyone. The 50,000 were gone, but they were not forgotten. Every ship in the Confederacy fleet carried their names in its memory banks. Every treaty signed invoked their sacrifice. Every law passed was measured against their memory. The galaxy had learned. The strong could be held accountable. The weak could stand together. Justice was not given by the powerful. It was taken by the determined. And once taken, it changed everything. Humanity had come to the stars seeking peace and finding cruelty. They had answered cruelty with justice. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy what civilization truly meant.